This is Stocks to Watch as we get pivotal updates on Questcorp Mining, trading up over 120% year to date under the CSE ticker QQQ and the OTCQB under QQCMF. Joining to discuss, we're privileged of Saf Dhillon, the president and CEO. But first and foremost, welcome, sir.
Hi, Carl. Thank
Pleasure.
you.
Yeah, pleasure getting you on. And I just want to dive into this. I mean, your maiden drill program at the La Union Gold and Silver Project in Sonora, Mexico is progressing on track and on budget. Before we get into the details, maybe give us a little brief overview of the project and the geological significance.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.
Yeah, okay. Actually, just as you mentioned, Kyle, this is actually our flagship property now, La Union. It sits actually in the Sonoran Gold Belt, which is actually located just south of the Arizona border in northern Mexico. This area is actually probably one of the most prolific mineral producing regions in all of Mexico. And we happen to sit, I think, in just the cusp of the edge of the belt. And looks like we're potentially on a CRD or carbonate replacement deposit type of potential project. And yeah, that's kind of a nutshell where the project's located and where we're at.
Yeah, appreciate the insight. The program is now what, about two-thirds complete. What have you accomplished so far, and what have you learned about the deposit's geology and mineralization controls from the drilling to date?
Okay, yeah, I think that we haven't had an update, I think in about 2 weeks, but we should be having something ready probably within the next, I'd say, 5 to 7 days, maybe next week. Our initial plans were to drill anywhere from 4 to 6 holes, maybe 2,000 meters, but the drilling has progressed, I guess, better than expected, and we're actually completing probably, I think, hole number 10 right about now. Today is October 29th. And yeah, no, it's like I said, it's been progressing nicely. We actually have a majority of the holes that have been completed on our way or on their way to the lab, if they're not already in the lab. And hopefully we could expect to see some assays maybe early first quarter of 2026.
Yeah, some good catalysts to look forward to. And maybe just with those few holes remaining, what targets have you prioritized and what makes them particularly significant from a geological standpoint?
Yeah, you know what? We actually have been targeting areas of historic production. If you recall, this property actually, a portion of this property actually has produced about 50,000 ounces of gold, as low as 7 grams per ton, as high as 20 grams per ton. There have been four targets. We've actually had a number of holes in each target as we were hoping to get at least one or two holes, and it looks like we've got everything that we expected and possibly more. I think what I can say is that, we basically have hit significantly more alteration and faulting than we expected. This, I think, has been a driver for why we continued the drill program beyond the 2,000 meters and beyond the half dozen holes that we initially expected.
Yeah, I want to speak to those assays a little bit. Obviously, that's the big catalyst here, right? Do you want to talk about the timelines a little bit? When do you expect to receive and release those results?
Yeah, in Mexico, of course, you can drill year round, but in the last few months, we've seen a lot of activity with majors and even the mid-tier producers and explorers, developers. So that, when you have somebody like us who's a micro cap company, we have smaller budgets, we have smaller programs. So even though our assays might have gone to the lab earlier than some of the bigger boys, they usually get priority. They have the bigger budgets. So that's why I always like to give that little extra window. It could be prior to the end of the year, but I think more than likely we're probably going to see some assays come back very early in 2026, as I first mentioned.
Yeah, great to hear. And I wouldn't mind talking about the cash side of this and the funding. I mean, you recently closed the first tranche of your private placement and revised the terms. You want to talk about the capital you currently raised, what the revisions that you made were, and how these proceeds are going to be allocated?
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that because typically when a micro cap company announces the financing, you do see a little bit of a selling opportunity for somebody who might have some free trading paper. They probably want to come back in and get a unit that typically comes with either a half warrant or a warrant. In our case, we have a half warrant. And, our stock had been trading probably north of 20, between 20 and 23 cents Canadian for the last 4 to 6 months. Fairly good liquidity. as soon as we announced the financing, of course, it took a bit of downward pressure. That's why we basically had to reprice the financing from 20 cents a unit down to 15. 3.5 million Canadian is what had initially announced. In our first tranche, we just closed 2.1 million of that. And this financing was unique in the sense that the main institution that we actually brought in is a UK-based fund, Sorby. They have a unique situation. There's a share purchase agreement over 24 months, and we technically are looking at getting a monthly stream of cash. The number of units that they're purchasing have been fixed. The price that these units are purchased at are fixed at 15 cents, of course. But the way the funds are going to be released to the company are going to be on a monthly basis. And I think this is a very unique and smart strategy on the funds part. And I think it really fits the model for a growing junior like ours. We don't always have a need for, 500,000 or 1 million right away, but this kind of really helps with the month-to-month expenses. And a lot of work can get done with this monthly cash flow.
No, that's great to hear. And I wouldn't mind looking forward beyond the drilling. And what other steps are you taking to de-risk the project and move it closer to potential resource definition? And maybe give us an idea of what success looks like maybe in the coming 12 months for Questcorp and that flagship Union project you have.
Yeah, I think this project has been kind of unique, and this partnership has been unique because Riverside actually has owned the project for about 7.5 years. They've been consolidating the different land claims packages. They've been working on the property prior to them. Other companies have worked on this. There's been about 2.5 million that's been spent on the property, and that's USD. So I think the project was already fairly de-risked before we got involved.
I appreciate the insight. And on that note, we'll pass it off to the viewers. As always, we'd love to know what you think in that comment section. We'll leave website details down in the description below, and consider subscribing as news and catalysts come down the wire like this. Of course, we'll bring it to you here. But on that, as always, we look forward to catching you in the next one.